She ran away with nothing but fear in her heart, and what she found in the forest would change her life forever. But what happens when a father's lies spark a hunt that could destroy an entire people? Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The year was 1876, and the western frontier of America was still a place of untamed wilderness and harsh realities. 10-year-old Emma Turner stood at the window of her family's small cabin on the outskirts of Pine Creek, Montana Territory, watching the horizon with worried eyes. Her father would be returning soon, and the thought made her stomach twist into knots. Jack Turner had changed since Emma's mother died of fever 2 winters ago. Once a kind and gentle man, grief had twisted him into someone Emma barely recognized. The whiskey made it worse. When he drank, his temper flared like wildfire, and Emma had learned to make herself scarce during those times. Emma's fingers unconsciously traced the fading bruise on her forearm. Last week, her father had grabbed her roughly when she'd accidentally dropped one of their few remaining plates. His eyes had been wild, unfocused, as he shouted about her carelessness. Later, he'd apologized with tears in his eyes, promising it wouldn't happen again. But such promises had been made before. "Emma," called Mrs. Peterson from next door. "Could you come help me with something, dear?" Emma hurried outside to the neighboring cabin, where elderly Mrs. Peterson stood with a basket of freshly picked berries. "I thought you might like to help me make some preserves," the older woman said, with a kind smile. "And perhaps take some home for you and your father." Mrs. Peterson knew. Emma could see it in her eyes, the same look of pity mixed with helplessness that she'd seen from other townsfolk. Everyone knew, but no one knew what to do. Jack Turner had been respected once, and folks still remembered the man he used to be. "He's been better, Mrs. Peterson," Emma lied, not wanting to burden the kind woman with her troubles. "Really?" "Well, that's good to hear," Mrs. Peterson replied, though her eyes said she didn't believe it. "But you know my door is always open to you, Emma, day or night." As Emma helped with the berry preserves, her mind wandered to the stories her mother used to tell her about the native people who lived in the mountains. Stories of brave warriors and wise elders who lived in harmony with the land. Sometimes, Emma would spot them from afar, coming to trade with the settlers. Her mother had always spoken of them with respect, unlike many of the townsfolk who viewed them with suspicion and fear. "Mrs. Peterson," Emma asked hesitantly, "do you know much about the Indians in the mountains?" The older woman's hands paused in their work. "The Blackfoot, you mean? They keep to themselves mostly, though they come to trade sometimes. Why do you ask?" Emma shrugged. "Just curious. Ma used to tell me stories." "Your mother was a good woman," Mrs. Peterson said softly. "She saw people for who they were, not what others said about them." By late afternoon, Emma reluctantly said goodbye to Mrs. Peterson and headed home with a jar of berry preserves. As she approached the cabin, she saw her father's horse tied outside, and her heart sank. He was home early. Taking a deep breath, Emma pushed open the door. The familiar smell of whiskey hit her immediately. Her father sat at the table, a half-empty bottle before him, his eyes red-rimmed and unfocused. "Where've you been?" he demanded, his words slurring slightly. "At Mrs. Peterson's," Emma replied, holding up the jar. "She asked for help with making preserves. I brought some home for us." For a moment, something soft passed over Jack Turner's face, a glimpse of the father she remembered. But then his expression hardened again. "Should have been here, getting dinner ready," he muttered. Not wasting time with that old woman's foolishness, Emma quickly moved to the small kitchen area. "I'll start dinner now, Pa. Won't take long." As she worked, Emma could feel her father's eyes on her back, his mood shifting like quicksand. She tried to move quietly, efficiently, not wanting to provoke him. But as she reached for a pot, her elbow knocked against a cup, sending it crashing to the floor. The silence that followed was deafening. "Can't you do anything, right?" Jack's voice was dangerously low as he stood up, swaying slightly. "Just like your mother, always clumsy, always breaking things." Emma backed away, heart pounding. "I'm sorry, Pa, I'll clean it up." "Sorry don't fix what's broken," he growled, advancing toward her. "Seems you need a lesson about being careful with what little we got left." As his hand raised, Emma made a decision that had been forming in her mind for months. She ducked under his arm and ran out the door, past the horse, and into the gathering dusk. Behind her, she could hear her father shouting, his voice growing fainter as she fled toward the dense forest that bordered their property. Emma ran until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to give out beneath her. Only then did she stop, gasping for breath, tears streaming down her face. Looking back, she could no longer see the cabin, just the dark outline of trees against the darkening sky. She was alone in the wilderness, with night falling fast. But for the first time in a long while, Emma felt something unexpected relief. The forest seemed to close in around Emma as darkness fell. The familiar landscape transformed into something alien and intimidating. Sounds that wouldn't have merited notice during daylight hours, the rustle of leaves, the crack of twigs, the distant calls of nocturnal creatures, now sent shivers down her spine. But even as fear gripped her heart, the memory of her father's rage-filled eyes pushed her forward. "I can't go back," she whispered to herself, her voice small against the vastness of the Montana wilderness. Not tonight. Emma had never ventured this far into the forest alone. Her mother had taught her to respect the woods, both its beauty and its dangers. Mountain lions, bears, wolves all called these mountains home. And as the temperature began to drop, Emma realized she faced another threat: the cold. Late spring in the mountains could still bring freezing nights. She hugged herself tightly, wishing she'd had the presence of mind to grab her shawl before fleeing. The thin cotton dress she wore offered little protection against the increasingly chilly air. Emma knew she needed to find shelter, but in the growing darkness, navigation became nearly impossible. A twig snapped nearby, and Emma froze. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she strained to identify the source of the noise. Was it her father? Had he come looking for her? Or was it something else, something with teeth and claws? "Hello?" She called out tentatively, immediately regretting giving away her position. No response came, but Emma sensed she was being watched. The feeling crawled across her skin like a physical touch. Slowly, she turned in a circle, peering into the shadows between the trees. "I know someone's there," she said, trying to keep her voice steady despite her fear. "Please, I mean no harm." A figure emerged from behind a large pine tree, tall and imposing in the dim light. Emma's breath caught in her throat. It was a man, but not her father. As he stepped closer, moonlight revealed his copper skin and long black hair adorned with a single eagle feather. He wore buckskin leggings and a fringed shirt, and his face was marked with lines that spoke of both wisdom and hardship. He was one of the Blackfoot people her mother had told her about. The man regarded Emma with curious eyes. "Little pale-faced girl far from home," he said in accented but clear English. "These woods not safe at night." Emma swallowed hard. I had to leave. I couldn't stay." The man studied her face, his expression unreadable. Then his gaze fell to Emma's arm, where the sleeve of her dress had ridden up to reveal the bruise her father had left. Understanding dawned in his eyes. "Who did this?" he asked, his voice gentler now. Emma looked down, shame washing over her. "My pa. He drinks, and then he gets angry." The man was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, there was a resolved firmness to his voice. "I am called Swift Hawk. My people camp not far from here. You come with me tonight. Tomorrow we decide what to do." Emma hesitated. Everything she'd ever heard about Indians from the townsfolk warned her to be afraid. But her mother had taught her differently, and something in Swift Hawk's eyes told her she could trust him. "Will your people mind?" she asked quietly. A small smile touched Swift Hawk's lips. "My mother, Singing Bird, always says our lodge has room for those in need. Come now, little one. Night grows colder." Swift Hawk turned and began walking deeper into the forest. After a moment's hesitation, Emma followed. They traveled in silence, the Indian moving with practiced ease through the darkness while Emma stumbled occasionally over roots and uneven ground. When she fell behind, Swift Hawk would pause, waiting patiently without comment. After what seemed like hours to Emma's tired legs, they crested a small rise, and she saw the glow of campfires in a clearing below. Several tipis stood in a loose circle, their conical shapes silhouetted against the night sky. People moved about between the fires, and the sounds of quiet conversation and occasional laughter drifted up to them. "My people," Swift Hawk said simply. Then noticing Emma's apprehension, he added, "Do not fear. You are under my protection now." As they descended into the camp, conversations halted, and curious eyes turned toward them. Emma felt herself shrinking under their gaze. Instinctively moving closer to Swift Hawk, an elderly woman emerged from one of the larger tipis, her silver-streaked hair braided with colored beads. She approached them with a questioning expression. Swift Hawk spoke to her in their native tongue, gesturing occasionally toward Emma. The woman's eyes softened as she listened, and when Swift Hawk finished, she knelt down to Emma's level. "I am Singing Bird," she said in English that was more heavily accented than her son's. "Swift Hawk says you need safe place tonight. You welcome at our lodge." The kindness in the woman's eyes brought unexpected tears to Emma's own. She managed a small nod of thanks, suddenly overwhelmed by exhaustion and the emotional toll of the day. Singing Bird seemed to understand. She stood and took Emma's hand, leading her toward the tipi she had emerged from. Inside, a small fire burned in a central pit, casting a warm glow over the interior. Furs and woven blankets lined the edges, and various implements hung from the supporting poles. "You eat, then sleep," Singing Bird said, guiding Emma to sit on a soft fur near the fire. "Tomorrow is time for many questions, tonight is for rest." She brought Emma a wooden bowl filled with a hearty stew of meat and wild vegetables. The savory aroma made Emma realize how hungry she was. As she ate, Swift Hawk entered the tipi and spoke quietly with his mother. "The girl's father," Emma heard him say. "A man who strikes his child is no man at all." Singing Bird nodded solemnly. "The spirits guided you to find her. Now she's in our care." After Emma had eaten, Singing Bird showed her where she could sleep, a comfortable bed of furs near the fire. Despite the strangeness of her surroundings, the warmth and the feeling of safety quickly lulled Emma toward sleep. As her eyes grew heavy, she heard Swift Hawk speak once more. "Rest well, little one," he said softly. "No harm will come to you here." For the first time in many months, Emma believed those words might actually be true. Morning arrived with the melodious calls of birds and the gentle rustle of activity around the camp. Emma awoke disoriented, momentarily forgetting where she was until the events of the previous day came rushing back. She sat up, finding herself alone in the tipi, the fire now just glowing embers. Pushing aside the fur covering, Emma stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The Blackfoot camp was alive with activity. Women tended cooking fires or worked on crafts, children played nearby, and men prepared for hunting or gathered in small groups talking. Several people glanced her way, some with curiosity, others with wary expressions. "You slept long," came Swift Hawk's voice from behind her. "Sun is already high." Emma turned to find him holding out a wooden cup filled with water. She accepted it gratefully, suddenly aware of her thirst. "Thank you," she said after drinking deeply. "For everything." Swift Hawk nodded. "Singing Bird has prepared food. Then we must talk about what happens next." As they approached the cooking fire where Singing Bird worked, Emma noticed a group of Blackfoot men returning to camp. Their expressions were grim, and they spoke in urgent tones. Swift Hawk immediately went to meet them, listening intently to what they had to say. Singing Bird motioned for Emma to sit beside her. "Eat," she said, offering a flat bread topped with berries. "You need strength." Emma accepted the food but couldn't help watching Swift Hawk and the men. Their conversation seemed intense, with occasional glances in her direction. "What are they talking about?" she asked Singing Bird. The older woman sighed. "They went to scout near settler lands. Your father searches for you with other men. They carry guns and speak with anger." Emma's stomach twisted with fear. "He's looking for me? With a search party?" "Yes, Swift Hawk says your father tells others you were stolen by our people." The injustice of this accusation burned in Emma's chest. "That's not true. I ran away because—" "We know, child," Singing Bird interrupted gently. "But the settlers, they believe what they wish to believe about us." Swift Hawk approached them, his expression troubled. "The situation is dangerous," he said. "Some men in your father's party talk of revenge against our people. They have always wanted excuse to drive us from these hunting grounds. What can we do?" Emma asked, her voice small with guilt. "This is my fault." "No," Swift Hawk said firmly. "The fault lies with those who choose hatred and violence." But we must decide quickly what to do. An older man with a deeply lined face and wearing an elaborate headdress joined them. Swift Hawk bowed his head respectfully. "This is Running Elk, our chief," he explained to Emma. "He wishes to speak with you." The chief studied Emma with penetrating eyes before speaking in his native tongue. Swift Hawk translated. "He asks if you wish to return to your father." Emma's heart raced at the thought. "I am afraid of him," she admitted. "But I don't want anyone to get hurt because of me." After Swift Hawk translated her words, Running Elk nodded thoughtfully and spoke again at length. "The chief says this conflict was brewing before you came to us," Swift Hawk translated. "The settlers have been pushing boundaries of our agreement for many seasons. Your father's search party is just the spark to light a fire that has been building." Running Elk continued speaking, gesturing toward the mountains to the north. "He says we were planning to move our camp deeper into the mountains soon anyway, away from the settlers. We will leave today instead of next week. You may come with us if that is your wish." Emma felt torn. Part of her longed for the safety these kind people offered, but another part worried about the consequences of disappearing completely. "What about Mrs. Peterson?" she asked. "She worry about me. And if everyone thinks your people took me ... Swift Hawk considered this. "Perhaps there is another way. I could take you to the trading post at Fort Collins. There is a man there, Thomas Williams, who has always dealt fairly with our people. His wife is a kind woman. They might give you shelter until a better solution can be found." Running Elk and Swift Hawk exchanged more words, sometimes seeming to disagree, but finally the chief nodded. "It is decided," Swift Hawk said. "I will take you to the Williams family at the trading post. If they cannot help, you may still join our people as we move north." "When do we leave?" Emma asked. "Soon. The search parties are still far from here, but we should not delay." As the camp began preparations for their departure, Singing Bird helped Emma wash her face and combed her tangled hair with gentle fingers. "My son is good man," she said as she worked. "Strong warrior, but gentle heart. He will keep you safe." "Why is he helping me?" Emma asked. "Most white people treat your people badly." Singing Bird smiled sadly. "Many moons ago, Swift Hawk had a daughter about your age. Sickness came to our camp. Many died, including his wife and child. Since then, his heart has special place for children in danger." The revelation made Emma see Swift Hawk in a new light. She watched as he efficiently prepared for their journey, speaking with various members of the tribe, his movements purposeful yet unhurried. Within an hour, Swift Hawk approached with a small pony. "This is Star Dancer," he said, patting the pony's neck. "She will carry you." "What about you?" Emma asked. "I will walk beside you. It is not far to the trading post, but we must be careful to avoid the search parties." Singing Bird approached with a small bundle wrapped in leather. "Food for journey," she explained, handing it to Swift Hawk. Then she turned to Emma and placed a small beaded pouch on a leather cord around her neck. "Protection," she said simply. "Remember us." Emma felt tears welling in her eyes. "Thank you for everything." The older woman embraced her briefly. "May the spirits watch over you, little one." Swift Hawk helped Emma onto the pony's back and secured the food bundle behind her. With final farewells to his people, they set off, heading east through the forest while the rest of the tribe prepared to move north. They traveled in companionable silence, Swift Hawk occasionally pointing out tracks of animals or identifying birds by their calls. Despite the circumstances, Emma found herself enjoying the journey and her guide's quiet company. "How far is the trading post?" she eventually asked. "We will reach it by sunset if we keep good pace," Swift Hawk replied. "Thomas Williams is good man, but not all at trading post feel same about my people. When we arrive, you must speak for both of us." The responsibility weighed on Emma, but she nodded determinedly. "I'll tell them the truth. That you saved me and kept me safe." Swift Hawk's expression softened slightly. "Truth is good, but sometimes people hear only what they expect to hear. We must be careful." As the day progressed, Swift Hawk became increasingly alert, often stopping to listen or study the ground. During one such pause, his body tensed. "Riders," he said quietly. "Coming this way." Emma's heart began to race. "Is it my father? Cannot tell yet. We must hide." Swift Hawk quickly led Star Dancer off the faint trail they had been following. moving deeper into the forest where the undergrowth was thicker. Finding a dense thicket, he helped Emma dismount and guided both her and the pony into the concealing vegetation. "Stay very still," he whispered, his hand resting reassuringly on her shoulder. Minutes later, the sounds of horses and men's voices became audible. Through gaps in the foliage, Emma could see several riders passing by on the trail they had just left. With a jolt of fear, she recognized her father among them, his face set in a hard expression she knew all too well. "We should have found some sign of them by now," one of the men was saying. "You sure she didn't just run off on her own, Jack?" "And go where?" Her father replied angrily. "No, I tell you, I saw Indian tracks around our cabin. Those savages took her, and I aimed to make them pay." Emma felt Swift Hawk's hand tighten slightly on her shoulder, but his face remained impassive as they listened. "We'll head toward the trading post," another man suggested. "Check if anyone there's seen anything." The riders continued on, their voices gradually fading. Only when they were completely out of sight did Swift Hawk relax his vigilant posture. "They go where we go," he said grimly. "This complicates matters. What do we do now?" Emma asked, still shaken from seeing her father. Swift Hawk considered for a moment. "We take different path. Longer but safer. They expect us to use main trail." With expert knowledge of the terrain, Swift Hawk led them on a circuitous route through the wilderness, crossing streams to hide their tracks and using natural features to conceal their passage. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Emma spotted smoke rising in the distance. "The trading post," Swift Hawk confirmed. "But we must wait until dark now. Your father and his friends are there." They made a small camp in a sheltered hollow, and Swift Hawk shared the food Singing Bird had prepared. As they ate, Emma noticed how the warriors' eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, alert to any danger. "Are you afraid?" she asked him suddenly. Swift Hawk looked at her with surprise, then his expression softened. "A warrior knows fear, little one, but he does not let fear rule his actions. Fear is like the wind, it can guide you away from danger, but if it grows too strong, it can blow you in wrong direction." As darkness fell, Swift Hawk explained his plan. "I will take you close to trading post. There is small cabin behind main building where William's family lives. You will go alone to back door and ask for help. Tell them I am waiting in trees if they wish to speak with me." "What if my father is still there?" Emma asked anxiously. "I have watched. Most riders left before sunset. Only 2 horses remain tied outside. We must take chance that your father has moved on to continue search elsewhere." When full darkness had descended, they approached the trading post cautiously. Light spilled from the windows of both the main building and the cabin behind it. As they reached the edge of the clearing, Swift Hawk stopped. "This is where we part for now, little one," he said, kneeling to her level. "Remember what to say to the Williams family." Emma nodded, suddenly reluctant to leave the warrior's protective presence. "What if they won't help me? Then return here. I will wait until moonrise. If you do not come back, I will know you are safe with them." On impulse, Emma threw her arms around Swift Hawk's neck. After a moment of surprise, he returned the embrace gently. "Be brave, little one," he whispered. "Like the eagle that flies above the storm." Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped out of the forest shadows and toward the cabin's welcoming light. Emma's heart pounded as she approached the cabin, each step taking her further from Swift Hawk's protective presence and closer to an uncertain reception. The warm light from the windows spilled onto the ground before her, both inviting and intimidating. Voices drifted from inside, a woman's gentle laughter, a man's deeper tones responding. At the door, Emma hesitated, hand raised to knock. What if they turned her away? What if they called for her father immediately? The temptation to flee back to Swift Hawk's side was nearly overwhelming, but the memory of his words steadied her. "Be brave, little one. Like the eagle that flies above the storm," she knocked. The voices inside fell silent, followed by approaching footsteps. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her expression shifted from polite inquiry to concern as she took in the sight of the disheveled girl on her doorstep. "Good heavens, child, what are you doing out here alone at this hour?" she asked, immediately opening the door wider. "Please, ma'am, Emma began, her prepared words tumbling out in a rush. "My name is Emma Turner. I need help." The woman's eyes widened in recognition. "Turner? Are you Jack Turner's daughter? The one they've been searching for?" Emma nodded nervously. "Yes, ma'am, but I wasn't taken like they're saying. I ran away because—" Her voice caught, and she unconsciously rubbed the fading bruise on her arm. Understanding dawned in the woman's eyes. "Come inside, child. I'm Sarah Williams. My husband Thomas is here too. You'll be safe with us while we sort this out." Emma stepped into the warm cabin, the aroma of fresh-baked bread and stew filling the air. A man rose from his chair by the fire, tall and broad-shouldered with a salt-and-pepper beard and the weathered face of someone who spent much time outdoors. "Thomas," Sarah said, "this is Emma Turner." The man's bushy eyebrows rose. "Jack Turner's girl? The one supposedly taken by Indians?" "I wasn't taken, sir," Emma said firmly, finding courage in the couple's non-threatening demeanor. "I ran away after my pa. She faltered, then continued in a smaller voice. "After he hit me again. I got lost in the woods, and a Blackfoot warrior named Swift Hawk found me. He and his family took care of me." Thomas and Sarah exchanged a meaningful glance. "Where is this Swift Hawk now?" Thomas asked. "Waiting in the trees," Emma replied. "He said to tell you he'll stay until moonrise in case you want to speak with him." Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "I know Swift Hawk. He's traded here many times, honorable man." He turned to his wife. "Sarah, get the child some food while I go speak with him." As Thomas pulled on his coat, Sarah guided Emma to the table and set a bowl of stew before her. "Eat, dear. You look half-starved." Emma hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first spoonful touched her lips. As she ate, Sarah gently encouraged her to share the full story of her escape in time with the Blackfoot people. "Your father came through here earlier today," Sarah said when Emma had finished. "He had several men with him, all carrying rifles and making threats against the Indians. Most folks around here know better than to believe such tales, but some are easily swayed by fear and old prejudices. What will happen now?" Emma asked anxiously. "I can't go back to him, Mrs. Williams. I just can't." Sarah's expression was sympathetic but troubled. "That's a complicated matter, child. A father has rights to his daughter under the law, even when—" She didn't finish the thought, but her meaning was clear. The door opened, and Thomas returned with Swift Hawk. Emma felt a surge of relief at seeing the warrior again. Though his face remained impassive, his eyes softened slightly when they met hers. "Swift Hawk has told me his side of the story," Thomas said, hanging up his coat. "It matches yours, Emma. He also tells me his people are moving deeper into the mountains to avoid conflict with the settlers. The situation grows more dangerous," Swift Hawk added. "More men join the search. They speak of revenge against my people." Thomas sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair. "This could turn ugly fast. Jack Turner has influence in these parts, and he's got the ear of the territorial governor." "We can't send Emma back to that man," Sarah said firmly. "Not after what she's told us." "I agree," Thomas replied. "But harboring her here puts us in a difficult position legally." Swift Hawk spoke up. "I have suggestion. My mother's sister lives with band of our people near Canadian border. Far from here. Emma could go there until better solution is found." "That's a long and dangerous journey," Thomas said skeptically. "I would guide her," Swift Hawk replied simply. "I give my word she would arrive safely." Emma looked between the adults, hope blooming in her chest at the possibility of escape. "I could go with Swift Hawk," she said eagerly. "He protected me before. I trust him." Sarah's expression was pained. "Emma, dear, it's not that simple. Running away to Indian territory. It would be seen as kidnapping. Swift Hawk and his people could face severe consequences if discovered." "There might be another way," Thomas said slowly. "I have a sister in Oregon. She and her husband have no children of their own. They've mentioned wanting to adopt in their letters." He turned to Emma. "It would still mean leaving everything you know behind, but you'd be with good people who would care for you properly." Emma considered this. "Would my father be able to find me there?" "Oregon's a long way from Montana territory," Thomas replied. "And we wouldn't tell anyone where you'd gone. Not even if asked directly." Swift Hawk nodded approvingly. "This is good solution. But how does she get there safely? Her father watches roads." "The monthly supply wagon leaves for Fort Benton tomorrow," Thomas said. "From there, you can catch a riverboat down to Portland. My sister Martha lives just outside the city." "I'll go," Emma said decisively. "Anything is better than going back." "It's settled then," Sarah said, though concern still lined her face. "You'll stay here tonight, and we'll arrange everything for tomorrow." As the adults continued discussing details, Emma felt exhaustion overtaking her. The events of the past 2 days had drained her completely. Sarah noticed her drooping eyelids and prepared a small cot near the fire where Emma could sleep. Before retiring, Swift Hawk approached Emma. "I must return to my people now," he said. "They wait for me before continuing their journey north." Emma felt a pang of sadness. "Will I ever see you again?" The warrior's stoic expression softened. "The paths of our lives are like rivers, little one. Sometimes they divide, but many find ways to join again downstream." From around his neck, he removed a small leather pouch similar to the one Singing Bird had given her. "This contains sacred medicine. It will protect you on your journey." Emma accepted the gift reverently. "Thank you for saving me. I'll never forget you or your people." Swift Hawk placed a gentle hand on her head. "You have courage of a warrior, Emma Turner. Remember that when times are difficult." After Swift Hawk's departure, Emma fell into a deep sleep, the emotional and physical toll of her ordeal finally catching up with her. She dreamed of open plains and mountains, of tipis and eagle feathers, and of a brave warrior who had risked everything to help a child not of his own people. Morning came with a flurry of activity. Thomas had arranged everything with the supply wagon driver, a gruff but kind-hearted man named Hank, who owed Thomas several favors. Sarah packed food for Emma's journey and gave her a small bundle of practical items: a warm shawl, a hairbrush, and a journal with pencil. "To write down your thoughts," she explained. "Sometimes that helps when the heart is troubled." As they waited for the wagon, Thomas handed Emma a sealed letter. "For my sister Martha, it explains everything." He also gave her a small pouch that clinked with coins. "Enough for your passage to Portland and a little extra for emergencies." The sound of wagon wheels announced Hank's arrival. Emma's heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. This was really happening. She was leaving behind everything she'd ever known. "What if my father stops the wagon?" she asked anxiously. "Hank knows to avoid the main roads," Thomas assured her. "And you'll be hidden under canvas until you're well away from Pine Creek." Sarah knelt to embrace Emma. "Be brave, child. Write to us when you're settled with Martha, so we know you're safe." "I will," Emma promised. "Thank you both for believing me." Thomas helped Emma into the wagon, where Hank had arranged a hiding place among the supplies. "Safe travels, Emma Turner," he said, squeezing her hand. "May your new life bring you the happiness you deserve." As the wagon pulled away, Emma peered through a small gap in the canvas. The trading post grew smaller in the distance, and beyond it, the mountains where Swift Hawk and his people were journeying to their new home. She touched the medicine pouch around her neck, drawing comfort from its presence. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges she could scarcely imagine. But for the first time in a long while, it was also filled with hope. Emma Turner had discovered a strength within herself she never knew existed, courage born from adversity and nurtured by the kindness of unlikely friends. She thought of Swift Hawk's words, "You have the courage of a warrior." As the wagon rolled on toward her future, Emma silently vowed to live up to those words, whatever lay ahead. Days later, as the riverboat carried her down the Columbia River toward Portland and her new life, Emma stood at the railing watching the magnificent landscape unfold before her. Eagles soared above the water, riding the wind currents with effortless grace. She remembered Swift Hawk's parting words, "Be brave, like the eagle that flies above the storm." And in that moment, with the wind in her hair and the wide horizon before her, Emma knew she would be.